There is a word Jesus said more than almost any other word in the Gospels. Two words, really. Follow me. You've heard it 1,000 times. You've probably even said it about yourself. I'm a follower of Jesus. But what if the word he actually used meant something your version of following has never once required of you? Because what it demanded in that culture and what most of us quietly settled for instead are two very different things. Think about what following means to you most days. You watch a sermon clip, you nod along, you post the verse, you feel something move in your chest during worship, and for a moment you mean it completely. And then Monday comes and nothing about how you actually move through your day is any different than it was before you felt that. You watched, you agreed, you didn't walk anywhere. Maybe that's not failure. Maybe it's just that somewhere along the way, following quietly turned into watching from a safe distance, and nobody ever told you those aren't the same thing. Here's what following actually meant back when Jesus said it. A rabbi in that world didn't just teach from a stage. He walked from town to town, dusty road to dusty road. And the ones who wanted to learn from him didn't sit in rows and listen. They walked directly behind him, close enough that the dust kicked up by his sandals landed on them. There's a famous Jewish teaching that captures the picture beautifully. Stay so close to your rabbi that you're covered in his dust. Not that you'd admire him from across the room, that you'd be close enough, behind him long enough, walking the same road long enough to be covered in what he walked through. That's the picture behind follow me. Not applause from the crowd, dust on your clothes from matching someone's steps. So ask yourself honestly, when was the last time following Jesus left any dust on you at all? And following didn't just mean walking behind him, it meant matching his direction, even when yours was already headed somewhere else. Peter was in his boat. Matthew was at his tax table, a job that paid well precisely because he'd learned to take from his own people. These weren't men with nothing to lose. They had a direction already, a pace already, a life already arranged. And follow me wasn't an invitation to add Jesus to that direction. It was a call to abandon it and walk his instead. We've quietly changed that. We ask Jesus to bless the direction we've already chosen, rather than asking whether our direction matches his at all. You can admire Jesus without obeying him. You can quote Jesus without obeying him. You can sing about Jesus without obeying him. Following was never Jesus joining your road, it was you leaving yours for his. If that one felt like it was aimed straight at you, good, stay with me, because the next part is the one that actually costs something. Following meant leaving something behind you couldn't get back. The fishermen left nets that fed their families. Matthew left a table he'd never be welcomed back to once he stood up from it. There was no version of follow me that let them keep one foot in the boat. And we've built a version of Christianity where following costs almost nothing, where we can keep every comfort, every relationship, every direction we already had, and just add follower of Jesus to the list of things we call ourselves. But nobody in the Gospels followed Jesus and kept everything exactly the way it was. Following always meant something got left on the shore. What have you been unwilling to leave, even while calling yourself a follower? And maybe the hardest part, following meant walking even before you understood where the road was going. There's a moment where the crowd around Jesus thins out because what he's teaching is too hard to hear. And he turns to the 12 and basically asks, "Are you leaving too?" Peter doesn't say he understands. He doesn't say it makes sense. He just says, where else would we even go? That's not certainty. That's a man still walking, confused, because walking was still better than turning back. Faith doesn't always mean knowing the road. Sometimes it means knowing the one you're walking behind. If you've been standing still until it all makes sense, that's not a failure of faith. It's just a misunderstanding of what following was ever supposed to feel like.
So here's what this actually means for you. Following was never a feeling in a worship set. It was never a label on a profile. It was dust on your clothes, a direction that isn't yours anymore, something left on the shore, and a next step taken before the whole road makes sense. And if none of that has been true of you lately, that doesn't mean you're not a Christian. It means you might have been a fan of Jesus this whole time, standing close enough to watch, but never quite close enough to get any dust on you. So sit with this honestly. Where has your life been arranged around watching Jesus instead of walking behind him? What direction have you been asking him to bless instead of asking whether it's even his direction? Following was never the safest place to stand. It was the moving one. Lord, show me where I've been watching instead of walking. Show me what's still sitting in the boat that you've already asked me to leave. Let me get close enough again to be covered in the dust of the road you're walking, even before I understand where it leads. Following Jesus was never meant to be comfortable. It was meant to be close. What's the thing you've been keeping one foot in, even while calling yourself a follower? You don't have to say it, just sit with it. And send this to someone who's been a fan a little longer than they've been a follower. Subscribe to Guard Your Spirit, because next time we're looking at a habit that looks completely holy from the outside while quietly hollowing someone out on the inside.